Think about the last time you went for a walk. Maybe it was this morning. Maybe it was yesterday around the neighborhood. You laced up your shoes, stepped outside, and just walked. The way you always have. And here's what nobody told you. After 60, that exact habit, something as natural as breathing, may be quietly loading pressure onto your knees, your hips, and your lower back with every single step. Not because walking is bad. Walking is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health at any age. But because the way most of us walk changes as we get older, and those changes, if left uncorrected, can turn a healthy daily walk into a slow accumulation of joint damage. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening, why it happens, and the one specific correction that researchers at Harvard Medical School say can reduce joint loading significantly without changing how far or how often you walk, just how you walk. Before we go any further, this is educational content. Always consult your doctor before making changes to your health routine, especially if you're dealing with knee, hip, or back pain. Welcome to Live Well After 50. I'm so glad you're here today. If you're new, this channel is about helping you live a longer, stronger, more energetic life using real science. No gimmicks, no fear, just the truth backed by research. Let's start with what's actually happening to your gait as you age. Here's something researchers have observed consistently. As people move into their 50s and 60s, their walking pattern shifts in ways most people never notice. A study published in Gait and Posture in 2011 compared the walking mechanics of younger and older adults and found measurable differences in stride length, step width, walking speed, and the way people land their feet with each step. These changes aren't random. They're the body's response to reduced muscle strength, decreased balance confidence, and decades of posture habits. And while the body is adapting to protect itself short-term, these compensations create new problems. The biggest one? The heel strike. When most people walk, they land heel first, what biomechanists call a rear foot strike. In younger adults with strong muscles, this is fine. The calf, hamstring, and quadriceps act as shock absorbers, distributing impact before it reaches the knee. But here's what changes after 60. Research in the Journal of Biomechanics has shown that muscle mass, particularly in the quadriceps and calves, decreases significantly with age through sarcopenia. When those shock-absorbing muscles weaken, the same heel strike that felt fine at 40 transmits a much larger percentage of impact force directly through the knee and into the hip. A study in arthritis and rheumatology found that every pound of body weight translates into roughly 3 to 4 pounds of force on the knee during walking. If you weigh 160 pounds, every step loads your knee with roughly 500 to 640 pounds of force, and if your mechanics are off, that number goes up. Add thousands of steps per day, year after year, and you understand why so many people over 60 develop knee pain and hip discomfort even though they aren't doing anything high impact. Walking itself isn't the problem. The pattern is the problem. The pattern most people fall into combines three things: a heavy heel strike, a shorter than optimal stride, and a slight forward lean that amplifies joint stress. The heavy heel strike we've covered. When the heel lands too far in front of the body, overstriding, it acts like a brake. Each step slows you down slightly and reaccelerates. That braking force goes into your joints. A 2018 study in the Journal of Orthopedic Research showed that reducing overstriding was associated with meaningful reductions in knee joint load in older adults. The shortened stride is a natural compensation. The body gets cautious. But short, choppy steps increase impacts per distance traveled. You hit the ground more times to cover the same ground. And the forward lean, when the upper body tilts forward, often from tight hip flexors, it shifts your center of mass. Your body works harder to stay upright, changing the angle of force through the hip and knee. A study in the Annals of Physical and Rehabilitation Medicine found that postural alignment during walking was a significant predictor of joint stress in adults over 55. Now here's where it gets interesting. Researchers at Harvard Medical School have studied what happens when you make one specific adjustment, not a complete overhaul, not special shoes or months of therapy. One change, and in multiple studies, that change has been associated with measurable reductions in knee joint loading. The change is this: a deliberate shift in where your foot lands relative to your body, combined with a natural lift in your chest and gentle core engagement as you step. It comes down to gait posture and landing mechanics together. If everything I've shared so far resonates with you, I want to tell you about something we put together specifically for people over 50. It's called the Walk Without Pain Guide, and it gives you a complete breakdown of gait correction techniques, joint protecting exercises, and daily mobility habits, all grounded in the same science we're discussing, in a simple, science-backed guide you can start using today. The link is in the description below. I'll leave it there for you. Now let's keep going, because what comes next is the part most people have never been told. So what does this correction look like in practice? The correction centers on a midfoot strike, landing with the middle of your foot, making first contact rather than the heel striking out front. This doesn't mean shuffling or taking tiny steps. It means adjusting where the foot lands relative to your center of gravity. Here's how to feel the difference. Stand tall. Take one exaggerated step forward the way you normally would, heel reaching out. Feel that jolt? That's braking force. Now try this. Stand tall, lift your chest, and let your foot land almost directly underneath your hip. The stride feels shorter, but your pace doesn't slow. You make up distance with a natural push-off from the back foot. A 2016 study in the Journal of Applied Biomechanics found that transitioning from a rear foot to midfoot strike during walking reduced the impact peak force in healthy older adults. And this change is self-reinforcing. When you land closer to your center of gravity, your calves, glutes, and core activate more naturally. That increased muscle activation is itself protective. A study in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity noted that improved neuromuscular activation during walking was directly associated with reduced joint pain and better balance in adults over 60, even without any strength training program added. Now, there's a third piece of the puzzle: your walking posture, specifically the relationship between your head, chest, and pelvis, determines how efficiently force moves through your body. For most adults over 60, decades of sitting have created anterior pelvic tilt, where the pelvis tips forward, the lower back arches too much, and the glutes disengage. A study in clinical biomechanics showed that pelvic alignment during walking had a direct relationship with both knee loading and lower back fatigue in older adults. But here's what nobody is talking about, and it might be the single most important factor in whether this correction actually works for you long term. What nobody is talking about is this: the correction itself is simple, but whether it sticks, whether it rewires your walking pattern instead of lasting 2 days, depends on something called motor relearning. And after 60, motor relearning works differently than when you were young. Your brain has a deeply encoded walking program. It was established over decades, reinforced by millions of repetitions, and it runs automatically. That's a feature, not a bug. You don't think about walking the way you don't think about breathing. But because it's automatic, your brain resists changing it. Neuroscientists call this motor memory consolidation. Research published in Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews has shown that changing well-established movement patterns requires more deliberate practice in older adults, not because older brains can't learn, but because the existing pattern is more deeply encoded. The good news? When older adults focus attention on a specific movement change for 15 to 20 minutes per day over 2 to 3 weeks, the new pattern begins to consolidate. The brain rewires. New neural pathways form. Within a month, what felt deliberate starts to feel natural. A 2019 study in the Journal of Neuroengineering and Rehabilitation found that gait retraining in adults over 65 produced lasting changes in walking mechanics that persisted at 6-month follow-up, not just in the lab, in their daily lives. So how do you apply this practically? Here's the protocol that aligns with the research. It's simple enough to start tomorrow. For the first week, you're not changing your entire walk. You're adding what I call a conscious entry. The first 2 to 3 minutes of every walk, you deliberately apply the correction. Mid-foot landing, chest lifted, core gently engaged. After those first minutes, let your body do what it wants. You're not fighting the old pattern. You're introducing the new one at the start every time. This repetition works with your brain's associative memory. Every time your feet hit pavement, your brain gets a consistent signal. This is how we walk now. In the second week, extend the conscious period to 5 minutes, then to 10. By week 3, most people naturally fall into the corrected pattern after just a few steps, not because they're forcing it, but because the new pattern feels more natural than the old one. A study in the Physical Therapy Journal found that targeted gait training focused on just 1 or 2 mechanical cues produced significantly better outcomes in older adults compared to more complex interventions. Simplicity is a strategy, not a compromise. Now let's talk about 3 things you should stop doing during your walks, because these habits will slow your progress or undo your corrections. First, stop looking down at the ground while you walk. This is common after 60, and it makes sense. Falls are a real concern. But a 2017 study published in PLOS ONE found that looking down during walking actually impairs balance and increases fall risk rather than reducing it, because it disrupts your vestibular system. It also pulls your head forward and collapses your chest, immediately compromising the posture correction we've built. Instead, focus your gaze about 10 to 15 feet ahead. You'll see obstacles just as well, but your posture and balance will be dramatically better. Second, stop wearing unsupportive footwear for daily walks. A study in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that shoes with excessive heel cushioning can encourage the heel strike pattern we're moving away from by making heavy heel landings feel comfortable. Look for shoes with a lower heel to toe drop, meaning less height difference between heel and forefoot. This naturally encourages mid-foot landing. You don't need minimalist shoes. You just need less platform under your heel. A specialty walking store can measure this for you. Third, stop walking on uneven surfaces while learning the new pattern. Uneven terrain requires thousands of micro-adjustments per minute. During that cognitive load, the new gait pattern gets pushed aside. In the early weeks of retraining, choose flat surfaces, sidewalks, tracks, smooth paths. Give your brain the best environment to encode the new movement. Once it feels automatic, usually around week 4, you can reintroduce varied terrain. Now, let's talk about 2 exercises that multiply the effectiveness of everything we've discussed. The first is the calf raise. Stand near a wall for balance, rise on your toes slowly, 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. A study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research confirmed that progressive calf raises significantly improve push-off force during walking in older adults, the exact muscle action that powers the midfoot strike. Start with 2 sets of 12. Work toward 3 sets of 20 over a month. The second is the glute bridge. Lie on your back, knees bent, feet flat. Slowly lift your hips, squeezing your glutes at the top. Hold 2 seconds. Lower slowly. Research in gait and posture showed that hip extensor strengthening directly improved walking mechanics and reduced knee loading in adults with knee osteoarthritis. 3 sets of 15, 3 to 4 days per week. These 2 exercises, combined with the gait correction and motor relearning protocol, form a complete system for protecting your joints through the activity you're already doing every day. And here's something worth mentioning. You don't need to do these exercises on the same day as your walk. In fact, a study published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology found that spacing out gait correction practice and strengthening exercises on alternating days produced slightly better neuromuscular adaptation in older adults compared to combining them in a single session. So if you walk Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, consider doing your calf raises and glute bridges on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Simple, sustainable, and backed by evidence. Let me bring everything together with 3 key takeaways. First, after 60, the most common walking pattern, heavy heel strike plus overstriding, loads significantly more force onto the knee than necessary. Walking isn't harmful. The mechanics can be improved. Second, the primary correction is transitioning toward a midfoot landing. Let the foot land closer to your center of gravity. Combine this with an upright posture and gentle core engagement. This reduces the impact peak traveling through the joint with every step. Multiple peer-reviewed studies support this. Third, making it stick requires working with your brain's motor learning system. Start with 2 to 3 conscious minutes at the beginning of each walk. Build gradually. Add calf raises and glute bridges. Avoid looking down, thick-soled shoes, and uneven terrain during early retraining. You don't need to overhaul your life. You don't need to stop walking. You need to walk smarter. And starting on your very next walk, you can. If you found this helpful, please hit the subscribe button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people over 50 who need science-backed, practical information. Every week we cover topics like this: real research, real applications, zero fluff. And if you know someone dealing with knee pain or joint discomfort on their walks, share this video with them. It might change how they move for years to come. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of those joints. You're going to need them for a long, wonderful, active life. I'll see you in the next one.